We'll just wait for a few minutes more and let everyone join in. We've already put in the chat box the live streaming link, so some might join via that.
No issues.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to know, it's like, what is the size I
Okay,
should be operating with,
yeah,
and just for my own, I'm just gonna assume that it's going to be greater than, even if it's not, I'm just gonna
yeah,
assume that it's
yeah.
greater than 20.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining in on time. We have Mr. Sri Hari here, who is doing his PhD from Texas A&M University, and he has done his master's from the University of Pennsylvania, and he is here to help guide us and let us know about how to go about achieving the American dream of reaching America for higher education. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya ma'am. Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning. My name is Sri Hari Menon. How are you all doing? I'm gonna assume everyone's doing all right. And we're gonna start off now. Few ground rules. I'm going to start talking, and y'all are more than welcome to interrupt me and ask a question whenever you want. I won't have an issue whatsoever. And you can either interrupt me, or it won't. You are more than welcome to excuse yourself when I'm presenting. I won't call it an interruption. And you are also welcome to hold your questions off until later. That being said, let's actually start our little presentation here. Give me a second. There we go. Now, can I hear from the audience if everybody can see this?
Yeah, it's visible.
Cool, thank you. All right. So this is going to be a crash course, my guys. This is how to actually make it to the United States as a higher ed path. I'm going to take you through 8 steps of how this looks like. But first, before I start talking, I need to earn you guys' trust, because you need to be convinced, ye banda kaun hai? Who is this guy? Who is he to tell me how to get to the United States? So, hello, my name's Sri Hari. Pronouns he, his, him. I'm comfortable in English, Hindi, Malayalam. You're more than welcome to ask me in whatever language you're comfortable in. I will answer them in all that I can. Let's start with where I've studied. I have had the absolute privilege of being at all these institutions. I currently am a doctoral student at Texas A&M University. It's a university of very high repute, especially their engineering school. I want to say is ranked 15th in the country, which 15 doesn't sound like a whole lot, but let me tell you, we're rubbing shoulders with universities like Northwestern or Wisconsin-Madison or University of Illinois. So there's a whole lot of universities here. They're all equally good with each other. So I'm a doctoral student at Texas A&M University. I make spacecraft safer for astronauts here. That's what I do. I also hold a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania in mechanical engineering, specialization being in fluid mechanics and heat transfer. And I hold a bachelor's degree in engineering from BITS Pilani in mechanical. I have had the absolute utter privilege of working at the Indian Space Research Organization, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, as a research intern. I contributed towards the development of the crew module design that was happening at the time. And I also was a researcher at an institution called the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. It's one of the leading pediatric institutions in the world. And I was working there to make car seats safer for kids to travel in. There's a whole regulation about how we want to keep kids safe. And I worked on that. And apart from that, I love to cook. I'm trying photography, and I'm also into running and rowing. So there's all that. Now, let's talk about why. So I hope I earned your trust, and let's jump into why are we here. The bottom line is this. There's no better place to study than the United States. I know Maya ma'am will disagree with me, but very simply, 10 of the top 20 universities of the world are in the United States. There are billions of dollars, that's B, not million, billions of dollars in research and endowments. Most breakthroughs happen here first. The way the saying goes is research always lags 5 years in Europe and at least 10 years in places like India as compared to the United States. So from the academics point of view, this place is, there's no argument here, is the best. Peers and scholars from all over the, I'm not, this sounds like something that you read on a prospectus. I'm not there. I had friends from Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Brazil, or other parts of Latin America, China, Japan, Korea, Australia. They're like everywhere. When you are in that room, you are sitting among people who are more intelligent than you are from across the world. And the most important part, which I think all Indian students can identify with, they actually know how to teach here. That's a very important part. I'm not being critical of all Indian teachers, but there's just better pedagogy. There's like the pedagogy is so much better. The structure is so much better. There's continuous evaluation. Chances of failing is low. Chances of scoring high is also very low. So actually no, chance of scoring high is also high. So it doesn't set you up for failure. It's the best place to be. I won't try to sell the United States to you. If you are here, you are interested. I'm not going to sell the United States to you any further. So let's jump straight into what will it take. Now, we'll get into the specifics of how to get to the United States, but I think it's necessary for you all to get this very clear in your mind. Why do you want to do this? First and foremost, studying in the United States is expensive. For a master's degree, I had to pay $70,000, which translates in Indian rupees to nearly 50 lakhs. It's expensive. You're leaping into a whole different system. The work ethic is different here. Person-to-person ethic is different here. You won't suffer a very big cultural shock, but still it's not India. And that whole struggle of being here aside, just the application process is 9 months long. There are a lot of steps as we'll go through. So it's necessary that you decide that, no, this makes sense to me. I have the means to pay for it. Second, I have a plan. Whatever that, even if your plan B, I'm going to come here, work for 2 to 3 years, and then go back to India, which is what I've heard is the popular trend nowadays. Is we'll come here, we'll gain some work experience here, and then we'll go back to India. If that's your thing, that's fine. If you want to try and stick around and work for longer, that's fine as well. If you just want to do a PhD and then go back, that's fine. A friend of mine did just that. He did his doctoral here. He's doing his postdoctoral in Cambridge University, and he plans to come back to Bangalore Indian Institute of Science as a professor. Another friend of mine who was a postdoctoral at University of Pennsylvania is now an assistant professor in IIT Gandhinagar. So there are a whole lot of different ways you can go after graduating from the United States, but why even come here? Make that decision. Once you've made that decision, commit to it. That no, this is going to take some effort. It's not just, one and done. It's not like we're just going to write one entrance exam and that's over. No, you have to commit to it. And because there are a lot of steps to this, you have to start acting on that as well. Everything falls upon your action. You have to start working on it. So be very crystal clear in your vision of why am I doing this? It was very clear for me. I had to do it because it made perfect sense for my progression, for my career, that I would do this. Now, let's jump into the how to start. Now we're going to get into the weeds of it, the specifics of it. The specifics are this. When you are applying to the United States, there is no one metric by virtue of which you are gauged. You're gauged by different things. You are gauged by your academic grades, your graduate record exam score, your letters of recommendation, your resume, the work that you've done. Even a statement of purpose counts. It really doesn't, but I'll talk about that in a minute. And then you need to have your English test exam and all that done. But there is no one metric that is going to get you through. This isn't an entrance exam kind of deal. So this is the broadly speaking, all places have these many things that you have to follow. You have to submit your transcript, you have to submit a GRE score, letters of recommendation, your resume, your statement of purpose, your English test, and specific to some universities, like some universities in California, for example, ask you for an additional motivation letter or something like that. But that's a very specific case scenario. Oh, sorry about that. Let's get into the timeline. I said it's going to take about 9 months. The reality is it takes nearly a year, 12 months. The process typically should start somewhere around May or June, where you start preparing for the GRE. We'll talk about the GRE in detail, but you start thinking about it and you start preparing, you start putting your time preparing for the GRE somewhere around May, June. June, August, you do your research on, okay, these are the universities that I'll apply to. There is no one central place where you can apply for. There's no one central place that you apply everything to, and then you're like, okay, here's a tick box of the places that you would like to go to. No, you have to apply to each university. Each university will separately evaluate you. This isn't a system where you have like one university and several campuses. No. Each university is its own thing. Harvard is its own thing. Columbia is its own thing. Stanford is its own thing. Texas A&M is its own thing. UPenn is its own thing. So somewhere around August, September is when you attempt your GRE. The reason why I say you attempt somewhere in August, September, which many people may say that's a little too early to attempt the GRE, is quite simply this. On the off chance that you did not get a satisfactory score in the GRE, you need a buffer to reattempt them. So you start somewhere, you make your first attempt, and here's wishing it's your only attempt. I had 2 attempts. We'll talk about that as well. So August, September would be the best time. September, October, you ask academicians for their letters of recommendation. This is the time when you start reaching out to, if you're in your this is when you're obviously applying when you're in your final year, so you'll start writing to whoever you are working with. If you are in an internship, or if you're in a thesis, or if you're in a research group or whatever, that you ask your professor or your superior or whoever, sir, may I please seek your letter of recommendation for XYZ universities that I'm applying to. October, most applications have opened. I think Princeton opens on October 15th. And Princeton typically is one of the first few universities to open. October 1st or October 15th, I want to say, somewhere around that time. November, you should have finalized your statement of purpose. The statement of purpose, which is an essay that you'll write, again, we'll go into that, what it is. You should have, different universities require different sizes. Some want no more than 500 words. Some want 2,500 words, but a generic statement of purpose should be ready by November for you guys. December 1st to Jan 15th, most applications start closing. I, in fact, know there is, I think, State University of New York, SUNY starts closing on November 31st. So that's the earliest, I think. And then December 1st to Jan 15th, Jan 30th is when you finish all your applications. January to February, you check all the January to February. Once your applications are done, there's little else that you can do. So like December 1st, Jan 15th would be the the height of it all. Then January to February, you can't do much. So you check with all your referees whether they've submitted all their letters of recommendation, because they have some time to submit. You need to give your people at least 6 weeks, guys, to submit the letters of recommendation. You can't say, sir, please, sir, we're for 4 days only application. Can you please submit a recommendation for me right now? Please don't do that. Please don't rush them like that. Give them at least 6 weeks, typically 2 months. And then March to May is application decision time. That's what everybody's waiting for, is like, okay, what has happened? What happens to my future? What's my fate? We've all been there before. I know that. And it's no different this once as well. The only difference is not everything hangs on the balance of just one score. Now, to the question of the schools themselves, where exactly are we going? Researching schools is its own job. It takes time. You should research the places that you want to go to while you are preparing for your GRE. Create a list of schools in 3 categories. One is ambitious, the second is moderate, and the third is safe. When I was applying for universities, I thought, no, I don't have a good profile. I'm not going to make it anywhere. So I'm just going to have more moderate and safe schools and not many ambitious schools. And I was told that my list is doable. It is very realistic. A friend of mine told me, you must apply to at least one ambitious university. It doesn't matter what it is, at least you'll get a shot. I'm like, okay, where do you think I should apply to? He's like, University of Pennsylvania is a good university. They have a good mechanical engineering degree. You should apply to at least one university like that. I'm like, fine, I guess I'll apply to UPenn. It's not like I'm gonna get it. And I got it. Please don't shut doors, because you will miss 100% of the opportunities that you don't take. I've learned it the hard way, And I've been very lucky to have bosses who told me that. Use resources like US News Ranking, ask your seniors, look at program specific. Some places, masters is cheaper. Texas A&M, I think it costs $40,000. But places like, not Columbia, there's this university, private university, I'm forgetting the name, but it's close to Columbia University that costs, Carnegie Mellon, sorry. Carnegie Mellon costs $80,000. So you're going to have to do the weight on that. About 6 to 10 colleges is perfect. Once your list and everything is prepared and your checklist is done, let's talk about the graduate record exam. Now, the GRE is not a mathematical exam or an English exam. It is a psychological exam. It is built to test how quickly you fail. That's the point of the GRE. They want you to fail. It is the best balance against your grades and arguably the most important part of your application. Arguably. It need not necessarily be, but it is, let's say it's the, here's the structure. It's about a 3.5 hour, 4 hour exam, 6 sections to it. Typically the first one is an essay. You don't require a whole lot of preparation for that. There are 5 sections that you are preparing for. 2 are on verbal reasoning, 2 are quantitative reasoning. 1 is an experimental section that could either be verbal or quantitative. That section is not going to be graded. That's just for them to understand the talent pool of the students who are applying for, who are writing the GRE. But that's simply for them, and you won't know which section is the experimental section. That's there's no control on that. There's 1 break in the middle. All sections are 35 minutes and 35 minutes long, 25 questions each. Each of them, quant and verbal, are worth 170 points, and AWA is 6-point score. You can retake the GRE every 25 days, and each attempt, I think, is still $200. It may have risen in price, which I think would be 15,000 rupees, I think. So keep that in mind. Listen to me very carefully. I know that because if you've done some research, you've heard people say that the English part is tough for Indian students and maths you'll be able to do it. I assure you the maths is the most important part, because no one cares in an engineering school. The committee is not sitting here checking, do you know the difference between banal and quotidian? No, they want to see if you can look at a question, read it thoroughly, immediately analyze it, and solve it. That's what matters the most. Do not under-prepare for maths. It is deceptively easy. It is a high quant score is a necessity. You must aim to score no less than 165 out of 170. That is the expectation that I'm leveling for you guys. There are people who will score 160, 162, and they'll be happy with it. No. Aim for at least like a bottom line of 165 and then work up from there. Learn all the topics that are covered in the syllabus. GRE has adaptive grading, which means the difficulty level of the question that you are going to encounter next is dependent on how you have been performing in the exam so far. So if you've had like 5 correct answers, you don't know if you've had correct answers or not. You're just clicking by. If you have 5 correct answers, they'll say, okay, this kid seems to know his maths. Let's throw him a difficult one. And the difficulty keeps changing like so, but just to trip you, because they know that you know they have adaptive grading, they will throw an easy question in the middle at just to break your confidence. It's like, why am I getting an easy question? This is an easy question. Why did I get were all my questions wrong? Were all the answers that I wrote before wrong? for them to give me this. Don't fall for that. Practice, practice, practice. I'm giving you a $200 tip. Read the damn question. I gave my first attempt. My quant score was 162. It was extremely shameful for me. So I immediately signed up for a second, and I realized my mistake was quite simply this. I was too egotistical. I was like, yeah, I know exactly. I can see the numbers, because when you've been through the Indian system of testing and training, you just look at the numbers, you look at what they're asking for, and then you do the math and you find the answer. They know that you behave like that, so they will put an answer there in the MCQ for you to be fooled by that. Don't do that. Read the whole question. Sometimes the numbers are put in words, so they won't say it grew by 50%, as in 50%. No, they'll say things like it grew by half its original amount. So you have to do the interpretation in your mind. Is like half the original amount means half of what was, so 1/2, so 50%. You have to put that into perspective. Not like they're not going to spoon feed you the numbers. This is not AIEEE. They're not going to do that for you. You have to interpret it. That's the exam. That's the psychological aspect of this. You see that sentence? Do you follow it? Because if you would have thrown this at me and I hadn't gone through GRE, I wouldn't have been able to parse through that. Verbal just checks how you can optimize about things that you don't know a whole lot about. They just want to see, okay, how exactly do you respond to a whole lot of words that they all seem right, they all seem to fit it, but which one's the best word? The best way to train for verbal is flashcards. You create a card, you write the word and the meaning of the word behind it, and every day you look at the card. There are I think there are apps that are like GRE flashcards, and you can keep practicing on. That's how I practiced. Flashcards are the best. The next best way is to train for verbal is practice the words in communication, just when you're talking. Something looked very normal to the point of it not being fun anymore. It's like, oh, you mean something looked banal. So try to include it in your conversation. A high score in verbal is good, but it's not necessary. My first attempt verbal must have been 155. My second verbal attempt was 159. So I don't care, because I was not interested in getting a high score in verbal at all. $200 tip again. Please read the damn question. Don't they trip you up in verbal the same way as they trip you up in the quantitative section as well. So please be careful about that. Now, they tell you that verbal is where most Indian students are weak. Y'all are not weak. It's just no one speaks like this in the United States as well. This is not an American English test. No one talks like this. Even if you read New York Times, Washington Post, nobody writes like this. So you just need to follow flashcards. You just need to keep practicing with yourself. Keep reading the word, the meaning of the word, and then practice. I don't know why I didn't write it here. Practice the questions again. Practice them. That's very important. Now, what should you use to study for the GRE? I leave that to you guys to decide. Whatever you choose, just stick to it. Personally, I used something called magoosh.com. They have a thing, but it's expensive. You have to pay for it. It's $180 for 6 months of training. it was extremely helpful for me, and I would strongly recommend it to everybody. But I understand if you're not able to afford that, that's absolutely fine. Thank you, Utkarsh. The link for Magoosh is in the chat. There are other people as well, like Magoosh. There is Princeton Review, Kaplan. There are a lot of private for-profit agencies that will train you for the GRE. You can purchase books. There's a whole lot of books available for the GRE. It doesn't matter what you use. Maybe don't go through like a whole playlist of YouTube videos. Maybe just don't do that, because I'm not sure that's fun. But if that's how you learn, hey, that's up to you. But a book or a place where you go to train, I don't know if I think Byju's also must be operating GRE classes. You can have a look at that as well. I'm a strong proponent of having a teacher or being taught by a machine or a system. But if you guys are more like a book kind of people, that's buy a book, buy a GRE book, read it completely, like a Princeton Review or whatever, read it completely. And understand how things have to be done. Towards the end of your preparation, when you're coming close to the GRE, purchase an exam and practice the exam so that you know that this is good. Like purchase a $20 exam from ETS. ETS is the agency that administers the GRE, and they also sell practice exams. So they'll generate a GRE exam only for you, just to practice on. So if you just pay, I think $20, you'll be able to use that. I would strongly recommend you guys doing that towards the end of your preparation. Letters of recommendation. Now, there's a whole lot of text here, and I'm also going to do the thing that most Indian professors do of just reading through the text, but I think it's necessary that you guys understand what I'm trying to say here. It is the second most important part of the application, and it could be the strongest in your application. Your grades do not know you like your teachers do. They know your work ethic. They know how hard you work, how committed you are, and how badly you want this. So they'll be able to write a good letter of recommendation for you. They are talking on your behalf to the committee. They're telling the committee, this kid is a good kid, take him. I can vouch on my academic integrity that this kid's a good kid, so take him. I know a friend of mine who didn't have excellent grades, had an okay GRE score, but he had very strong letters of recommendation from one of the lead scientists at TIFR Hyderabad, and there was one scientist who used to work with NASA, and so that got him to University of Wisconsin-Madison. A good letter of recommendation is written by a senior recognizable academician who you have worked with. It also should have anecdotes, meaning like points of specific experience, stories of specific experience that they've had with you on why they think highly of you. Because, okay, I gave him a project, he was good at it, or she was given work to review something, she was very good at it, she learned it very quickly. So therefore, I think she'll be a quick learn, she'll be a hardworking student, please take her in. And it should professionally make a case for endorsing you for higher studies. Like, it shouldn't be like, please take her in, please. No, it should be, I think this student is prime for higher studies, and I assure you that he'll be or she'll be a valuable addition to your academy. A bad letter of recommendation is written by an indistinguishable person with no credentials in your area. Don't do this. Don't ask the contractor you worked with over one summer to endorse you. They don't know. The University of Pennsylvania or Texas A&M University does not know that contractor. Sorry. So that's not going to help. Ensure that a bad letter recommendation also sounds a lot like very hardworking, sir. I tell you, sir, best student, sir, very hardworking, very intelligent. No, that won't do as well. It has to be worded properly, professionally, and it should not have any bad grammar or typographical errors, and is only talking about you. Letters of recommendation can make or break your case. In my university, I in fact remember there was a story of one guy who asked for a letter of recommendation from not a very good guy, not a very good professor, and he wrote a negative letter of recommendation for the kid. Why would you do that? That's the letters of recommendation are very crucial. They're cornerstone. Next, let's go to the statement of purpose. It's the least consequential part of your application, but it takes the most time to make. This is basically a personal essay that you're writing to the committee. This is your white space where you're making your case to them. It's not despite what it sounds like, statement of purpose of what you are going to do or want to do. It's actually a whole lot about what you have done so far. What are the projects that you have done? What are the courses that you have taken that you think may like put you in line with higher studies? What has your research been? Why does it, like, it should make sense from your background that you're making this transition to what you do. Like if you have been working in, say, VLSI, then it makes sense to move into VLSI. It may not make a whole lot of sense if you have been working on, say, MEMS, like microelectromechanics, to then turn around and say, but now I want to do AI. It's, that's kind of, you should be very clear on what it is that you want to do. Or I suddenly want to do data science. Okay, that's fine. It's you have to make a good case here. You can use the space to highlight good grades on your transcript or what extracurriculars you were involved in. Excuse my typo there. We love extracurriculars. I'm in the rowing team here myself. So if you have extracurriculars that you want to talk about, that you were part of some sort of an SAE Baha team, or you were part of an astronomy club or whatever, mention that. If you are a first generation, meaning you're the first person in your entire family to ever go to college at all, you could maybe, if you elegantly word it, then you can make a case for yourself in this. Or if you come from a low income background, you could maybe make a case for yourself that the case should not be take me because I'm first generation or take me because I'm low income. It should be, I have come this far despite my hurdles. I think if you give me a chance again, if you give me a chance at your place, I will continue with my trajectory. And that helps in some, especially California. If you write something like this, ooh, they're gonna take you immediately. They're like, "Are mera beta, mera lal." They'll suddenly take you because California is that way. Don't try this in Texas. There's that. Lastly, some other important things or considerations. Now, your resume, what projects you have done, what work experience you have, all that matters, all that counts. And this is necessary, it goes with you. It's your, not your resume, more like a curriculum vitae, everything that you've done. Please don't include high school scores. No one cares. No one cares. Mention things that you extracurriculars. I know of a guy who came to Penn because he didn't come from a fancy university in India. There's nothing big about him, but he was a regional tennis player and he was being considered for nationals. Sports has a very heavy cultural emphasis in the United States. So if you are part of any sports club or any such thing, mention it. Mention it in your statement of purpose. Mention it here as well in your resume. That matters. That being said, then you have TOEFL. TOEFL is test of English as a foreign language. Now, the reason why I didn't dedicate much time on this is because I'm assuming you all know how to speak English, man. You know how to speak English, you know how to write English. Personally, frankly, I find this to be the most demeaning exam. I didn't prepare for this, and I don't care about this. I don't think I checked my scores. I just turned them in. You also have to write the TOEFL. Write your TOEFL after your GRE, because like you need to focus for your GRE. TOEFL can keep happening, but you need to write it. Have your transcripts ready. Most places will not accept an e-transcript, especially from India. I don't know if I don't know if your university has e-transcript systems, but on the off chance that even if it does, I don't think they'll accept it. Most possibly, you will have to postally mail your transcripts to them. So always ensure with your academic resources division that you have your transcripts ready. Always check when do applications, excuse my typo there, when do applications for your school close? When you have a list in your mind, it's like, okay, these are the places I want to apply to, and you start your application. So starting your application is a lot like opening a new account, like a Gmail account kind of thing. In all these places, they have application accounts. So you have to start, like you can start an account and you can come back and finish your application whenever you want to, but ensure that your applications are turned in. Don't keep it to the last date. Turn your application in 24 hours before the deadline, because then you'll start asking dumb questions like, wait, do they mean 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time or 12 midnight Pacific Standard Time? Because the United States is so large, there are like three time zones. There are actually 6 time zones. There are 3 time zones. So which one, by what standard do they mean 12 midnight? Don't do that. Let's not ask those questions at all in the first place. And always check what is specifically required. If they say statement of purpose should not have any more than 500 words, don't act smart. Keep it to 500 words. If they say that your resume should not be more than a page, don't act smart. Keep it to a page. If they say we only need 2 letters of recommendation, act smart and still turn in 3 letters of recommendation. Yeah, no, it's not hard to make it to the United States for higher studies at all. You don't have to worry. You guys are not the first. You will not be the last, because if I'm the university, what I'm hearing is, here's a guy who has $70,000 to give, and fine. I have a limited number of seats. I want to say 100 seats this year. But if my volume of applications is high, I can always put a note to the dean, who can put a note to the regent's office. Can we like take in 10 more people this year? So you don't have to worry about, oh, will I get somewhere at all? You will get somewhere. I've seen all kinds of people make it to all kinds of universities. Don't worry, you'll get somewhere. I can assure you of that. Because as much as you want to come to the United States also wants to have your business, and it also wants to own your intellectual property. Because any work, any publication, anything that you do counts as that university's publication. So anything that you do is theirs. And plus, look, let me also be transparent. They would love to have smart, bright people join them. It's like, why not? Why would we not want that? That's awesome. So US universities will welcome you with open arms. Don't rule out ambitious places like Harvard, Stanford, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, Northwestern. These are all these are difficult universities to get into, but try Duke University. Try for places like this. They don't say no to them. Try for all of the um, Ivy League universities. Some of them will take you. Columbia तो ऐसे ले लेता है. Never mind. Right. I am now open for questions. Thank you for listening. I'm now open for questions. Whatever you guys want to ask, go on ahead. Unmute yourself and
guys, you can put it in the chat as well. We can read it from the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Whatever suits you. Okay. So there's a question in chat.
Yeah, what is your view on scholarship for masters? I don't know what you mean by view on scholarship. If your question is, can we get scholarships? The answer is that depends on the university. You can unmute yourself and ask me the question if you want to directly ask me Vasant.
Yes, sir. Like I've heard that there are actually options to get a full ride scholarships, but I heard it's really hard and stuff. So like I just want to know the reality of how it is and stuff.
Fulbright ke tilya, you will not get Fulbright. Please don't try for because Fulbright offers like 5 or 10 scholarships per country. That means India gets 10 scholarships, Pakistan gets 10 scholarships, Bangladesh gets 10 scholarships, Sri Lanka gets 10 scholarships. So there was a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Saeed. He was from Pakistan, and he was a Fulbright scholar. And he's the one who told me. He's like, nahi, काफी मुश्किल है India में, but Pakistan में बहुत easy. It's very easy in Pakistan. So no, not Fulbright, but in Texas A&M University, I'm just giving you an example. If you got a research assistance or a teaching assistance, they will waive your fees off for that semester. They do that. They will waive your fees off straight, like clean off for the semester. So that depends upon the opportunities that are available in the university. You are more than welcome to write to the financial aid departments there. Every university has financial aid departments. You can write to them. You can ask them, could you tell us what your scholarship situation is, and they'll tell you. So
on that account, sir, I wanted to ask you one question. So if they're applying for the first time, they're applying from here, how can they get TA or RA, teaching assistantship or research assistantship? How do they go about that for applying along with the application?
That's a good question, and the answer is don't try, guys, because you're not going to get it in your first go.
Okay. After you reach there, only after you reach there and do one semester.
After you've had one semester and after you've understood how things operate, because let's be honest, you don't know what it is to be an RA. You don't know what it is to be a TA. You'll get a feel for how things work once you've been here, you spent a semester, you understand the structure, the politics, the yada yada yada. I TA'd after my first semester at Penn. I TA'd this semester at Texas A&M University as well, but that was for a whole different reason. But yeah, you're more than just spend a semester here, figure things out, and then you apply for TARA, and then you can figure it out from there.
Any more questions, guys?
Please you can ask me anything.
Yeah. So something to add to Vasant's question. So other than the university specific financial aid, can we apply? Is there any general scholarship schemes for, offered by governments or other agencies which we can apply for?
The United States government is not interested in supporting you. Please check with the Indian government if they are interested in supporting you. I'm pretty sure they are also not. The straight shot answer is I wouldn't try. But first generation, there's another point, like first generation low income students can have one leg up in matters like that. Like if you can substantiate that you actually are from a low income background or you're first generation, then first generation college go, like no one in your family has ever gone to college, and if you can back that up, then sometimes they support you. This is university, but to answer your question, no. Typically you don't. It's that's yeah that there may be third parties that give you scholarships, but you'll have to search that all on your own. I'm not the authority on that.
Guys, any more question? You can type in chat or ask directly.
You're more than welcome to ask me about my research. You're also welcome to ask me about my time at ISRO or whatever. All questions are open.
Yeah, so could you just please share what your research works before applying to the US? That will be great.
Yeah, that's not a bad question at all. So there were three things that I can recollect of. The most consequential part was I was working at Vikram Sarabhai Space Center at the Fluid Mechanics and Thermal Analysis Division, Advanced Propulsion Research Group. My professor knew a scientist in ISRO, and it's just my luck that he was my professor's master's thesis guide. And then my professor finished his master's, then did his PhD, then joined BITS, taught for so many years, and then I came along, and then lo and behold, that scientist is still working at ISRO. Dr. T. Jayachandran, I remember him. He's now, I think, a visiting professor at IIT Madras. I worked there as a computational fluid dynamicist. That's my background, CFD. Well, my background is CFD, and now it's biomechanics as well. But I basically worked on the atmospheric re-entry problem for India's crew module, which was under development at the time. I did a small part in it. I'm not going to pretend or show off like I built the damn thing. No, there was just there were many ways of verifying the design of the spacecraft. I wrote a computer code in C++ to verify one such design. Second thing that I did was when I was in university, I did a project in hypersonics. And I ended up writing a presentation paper, which was accepted here, International Symposium for Air Breathing Engines. And that's another project that I worked on where I was basically studying hypersonics. Lucky me, I didn't know hypersonics was going to become a thing, because I remember I was in an interview here at Lockheed Martin. Don't ask me how I got into Lockheed Martin's interview, but I just did. And they asked me, it's like, you should look into hypersonics. Our company is trying to, hire people who are in hypersonics. Do you know anything about it? I'm like, I've done a paper on it, madam. Thank you. And the third thing I think that I did was, which I don't talk a whole lot about, was that I worked with a team to develop India's first student-led balloon satellite. It's called Project Apiro. I couldn't finish it in my time, so a junior of mine finished it, and they launched it with TIFR Hyderabad. So that was a fun thing to be a part of. But I couldn't give a whole lot of intellectual insight into that, so I won't call that my finest research work. But both my major projects, the hypersonics project and the crew module project, were both computational fluid mechanics, and they were high-speed airflow things. So that's what I did. That helped me get here. That and the strong letters of recommendation.
There's another question. So right after the BTech, you got admission in US? Did you get admission in the US?
Yes, I did. That's a good question, and I want to touch on that. Two things, guys. After your bachelor's, you are more than welcome to directly jump into a PhD program. You do not have to do a master's to get into a PhD program. I know that's not the point of this question, but I'm just giving you that thing that you can go straight from bachelor's to PhD without doing a master's. That's one thing. I understand the point of this question was, did you have some work experience in the middle? No, I did not. And no, you don't need to have work experience in the middle between a BTech and a master's. Work experience doesn't add all that much to your profile. Master's program is more academic than professional. PhD is like purely academic, but and master's programs understand that you're trying to do this for professional reasons, but for all intents and purposes, master's program is like almost at par with a PhD program, somewhat academically speaking. So yes, I would actually advise you to apply for your master's right after your BTech, unless of course you want to gain experience and you want to earn money to be able to fund it, at least partially fund it yourself, which is admirable. I know a lot of friends who did that.
So can you give insight on how to jump into a PhD after BTech?
Oh boy. uh, so your question basically is, how do you get into a PhD program? That's a question. It doesn't matter what you did earlier. The question is, how do you get into a PhD program? And that's its own that's its own headache. A PhD program's application is very, very involved. The application itself is the same as what I showed you here. But the difference is you have to write to every professor, not to every university, to every professor in every university, not to every professor, but to like professors who are of interest to you in every university, and reach out to them and ask them, hello, I'm so and so. I read your papers. I found them to be interesting. My field is also this. I'm also getting interest in this. If you have any research positions under you next semester, I would like to join you as a doctoral student. That is a full-time job, because you have to look at every university, open every faculty under your department of interest, and then look at everything that they are working in it. For example, if you are in computer science, you have to open computer science. You have to look at every, like you'll have to open University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign's website. You'll have to open Georgia Tech's website, look at their faculty who are in computer science, and then specifically look at, say, suppose you want to do your PhD in the area of artificial intelligence, machine learning, or quantum compute, whatever is your thing. And you have to specifically look at the professors who are working in those areas in that department, and then write to some of them. That being said, the chances of you being picked is low because of two reasons. One, look, you don't have a whole lot of work to show on your hands. You're just a bachelor student, which is the double-edged sword. Is so what if I'm a bachelor student? Why can't I get into a PhD? Well, have you done research? Have you done any research that looks like you could be a promising PhD student? That's problem number one. Problem number two, not every professor is hiring. Some professors, all professors work under a constrained budget. They all have like a couple of graduate students working for them, a couple of doctoral students working for them. And it really depends upon whether they have an opening. If they don't have an opening, they will not hire. Younger professors, assistant professors, lower ranked professors, assistant professors are always searching for students. Higher rank professors typically don't have space. So that's its own fight.
Do you, sir, personally know of anyone who's done his or her BTech and gone to
Yes,
PhD
I do.
from India? Yes.
Yeah. I know there aren't a whole lot of them, and all the people who I know are bloody intelligent. One guy, smart guy, he came from privilege, and he was the very guy who did the balloon sat thing with me. He then went and worked in Singapore for a year, and then he got his PhD at Wisconsin-Madison. Second guy did not come from privilege. He came from a humble background. To put it nicely, I would say he also doesn't come from the highest social order. But he was extremely intelligent, and when he wrote the GATE exam, he was All India rank 14. That kid got into the PhD program at University of Pennsylvania, and then he was a good friend of mine. And now he's doing his postdoctoral at Cambridge University.
Did he publish any papers or anything, or it was just basically BTech's course?
BTech, there's no time to. If you get into a paper as an author, that is awesome in your BTech, but the chance of that happening is low.
No. So on what basis did he get through is what I wanted to know, because all of these students are pursuing the BTech.
Yeah. So if you have some research experience, if you have good grades, if you're going to make that leap, you better have some good grades, or you should have some very strong letters of recommendation, extremely strong. Like there should be something extraordinary about you to immediately leap into PhD. Good grades, excellent, excellent research experience. Something like that should stand out for you to.
Another question. How important are research papers to our profile to get to moderate and ambitious universities?
They're not, for masters, they're not important.
Not
But I would say on a 0 to 10 scale, 10 being absolutely necessary, 0 meaning no one's even going to bother, I would put that as a 6 or a 7. So it's not. If you want to get into Harvard, for example, it'll help if you have it. Like it, let's be reasonable. You should have some strong research to show. You should have done a thesis, if not a paper, like a published. You should have at least done a thesis or something like that. But if you want to make it to, say, Wisconsin-Madison, let's take that as an example. You don't need to have papers published.
Another question. Can we have a chance to do part-time job to fund ourselves for the course?
The answer is a complicated no. You are a student, so you can't really work while you are here for studies. That being said, inside your university, you'll find ample student job opportunities inside your university. I actually, from the moment I landed at my university, I was searching for some job or another. A friend of mine worked as a bike mechanic. I worked as a proctor of exams in a disability center, and someone did something else. There are chances inside the university. Yes, there are job boards specific to the university that you have to run around, figure out where those jobs are. Typically, libraries will want students to maintain their records. You would need some lab would require somebody to maintain inventory, and they'll pay you a decent like the minimum wage, which is fine. So the answer is a partial yes.
Would the pay that you get?
It will not cover everything.
No. Just the accommodation. Would it cover the accommodation part, not the tuition fees, but the you get by?
That's the head nod I was doing is like, no, it won't cover everything.
Okay. Is there a time limit? Is there a time limit on the job, like 20 hours a week or something like
Yes,
that?
there is. Thank you for bringing that up. You cannot work any more than 20 hours a week. I used to work as a teacher for, I was a physics coach at the Office of Diversity, and I'm still associated with them. They're the nicest people ever. And I taught them physics, and they would pay me 17, I think $15 or $17 an hour. And they couldn't pay me any more than 20 hours. And the lady was very nice. She said, always fill 20 hours. Do not fill any less than 20 hours. But that covered my rent, but it did not cover my food. So
What about the breaks, spring breaks, winter breaks? Can you work more during that time when the school is off, between semesters?
no, you can't.
No, okay. It's always 20 hours a week.
You are a student.
Okay,
You can't.
thank you. Anybody else? Any questions, please? Guys, please do fill up the feedback form. The feedback form has been put up by Utkarsh. Please do fill it. It'll help us and help the speaker also get feedback on how the session went. It was an awesome session. Thank you so much. And really, you took all the parts with such clarity and giving importance to what is needed. I'm sure a lot of students would have related to each and everything that you actually said. And practice. There are $200 tips. That's like really good. And I'm glad you took time off. I know it's like nighttime out there, and yeah, you still took time off to tell our students about this. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Most welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And guys, next week we're gonna have a day in the life of a data scientist. So do come in for. We will send you notifications for that, and you can come in for that. We'll have a session every week with different people. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.